always by the Queen's side.
Tolerance is the one essential ingredient of any happy marriage.
Prince Philip was a devoted consort and father.
I am so happy. My future husband is by my side.
He was a fun parent to have around and very conscious of spending time with the children when he could.
Shaping his own legacy through his charity work.
5,000 quid, which will go a long way to help a great many families.
I think we'd better get on with the celebrations now. Thank you very much.
His straight-talking manner.
Do I look ill?
And commitment to his country, embodying the values of the wartime generation. Born in Corfu in 1921, Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark was welcomed into a world of title and privilege. But when he was still a baby, his family were forced to flee their home. A military coup meant it was no longer safe to stay in Greece.
When the family were on board this boat, that the sailors looked at the infant Prince Philip, who was only 18 months old at the time, and decided that the best place for him would be this orange crate from which they fashioned a sort of crib, and there he slept during the journey.
Effectively homeless, they eventually made their way to Paris. While money was tight, it was a happy time for Philip, surrounded by his parents and sisters. It wouldn't last. When he was 8, his mother was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia.
His mother was then tragically confined to what was called in those days an asylum for the mentally disturbed. It was the more tragic because Philip was not told what had happened to his mother. She just vanished from his life.
I mean, it's difficult for me to imagine how on earth he coped with the sort of family life that he had. And I think he hugely valued the family life and people coming together and being there for each other.
With his parents separated, he moved around boarding schools in Britain, eventually settling at Gordonston in Scotland.
It turned him into the entirely reliable person that he was. I mean, he learnt very early that he had to really stand on his own 2 feet.
As soon as he left school, a career in the Navy was calling. While training at Dartmouth Naval College, another chapter of his life would open. During a royal visit, he was asked to escort King George VI, his wife and 2 daughters, including Princess Elizabeth.
I think her heart was lost then. I mean, he was a godlike good-looking.
6 weeks after that visit, Britain would go to war. Philip was first sent to the Indian Ocean and then the Mediterranean, where he'd serve on HMS Valiant. His efforts during the Battle of Cape Matapan against the Italian ships was mentioned in dispatches. Like so many, Elizabeth and Philip would stay in touch during the war by writing letters.
There was quite a lot of correspondence went on, and they probably managed to meet occasionally.
He was a bachelor. Again, remember this is wartime, and you don't know whether you're going to get blown out of the sea the next morning. Adds a certain sort of frisson to the whole of life.
For November the 20th, Lieutenant Mountbatten returns to the Naval Training Centre at...
As conflict came to an end, not everyone was happy about Elizabeth's continuing infatuation, most notably her parents.
Queen Elizabeth, I think, wasn't quite sure about this good-looking young man. Also, where was his family? Where'd he gone to school? What was this place, Gordonston? Nobody'd heard of it. Prince Philip had joined the Royal Navy. Very good, mentioned in dispatches. But it's not the Brigade of Guards, is it?
But in 1947, their engagement was announced.
For the famous balcony came the bride and bridegroom.
In the gloom of post-war Britain, the wedding was a cause for celebration. The Duke of Edinburgh and his Duchess soon settled into married life. Their first 2 children, Charles and then Anne, were born.
He was a fun parent to have around and very conscious of spending time with the children when he could. But the more you've known about him and his life, I think the more impressed and the more proud I become of what not only he achieved as an individual, but how he translated that into the rest of his life. And that is an example which I would hope to be able to follow.
Philip continued to rise through the Navy. He was posted in Malta, where his wife would visit, a chance for them to spend time together as a couple.
They're taking the places of the King and Queen who would have gone but for His Majesty's illness.
But in 1952, as they were beginning a tour of the Commonwealth, everything changed.
To the stunned heart of London and to the whole Commonwealth came the tragic news from Sandringham of the passing of a beloved sovereign, King George VI.
Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip were in such a remote place in a hunting lodge in Kenya, it was difficult to contact them.
The word came through. It was given initially to the Duke of Edinburgh. Of course, he immediately went to tell his young wife the news that her father, her much-loved father, had died.
A year later came the coronation. His wife was now queen. He was her consort.
Next, the Duke of Edinburgh, preceding the other royal dukes.
She understood the limitations that he willingly took on in his life as a very masculine man, being always one
of royal duties. In retirement, he stayed active. His independent spirit brought into the spotlight when he was involved in a car crash and then spotted driving 48 hours later. Occasionally, in his latter years, he would still appear alongside the Queen for big events